Now, in September 2017, government introduced the paperless port system in an attempt to ensure and enhance greater transparency at the country's port of entry. Now, it's been about 2 years since then. And today on The Beep, we're putting the spotlight on the system, and where we want to analyze its effectiveness in ensuring greater transparency, cost effectiveness, reduction in clearance time, and overall reducing corruption. Until the introduction of this system, the port was known for excessive delays in the clearance of goods, lack of transparency, and of course loss of revenue to the state due to the corruption. In the studio for this conversation, we're going to be speaking to two gentlemen. I believe we have with us Richard Asante Amwa. Richard is an entrepreneur, is that right? Or actually, no, Dr. Ajay Holmes is a research fellow from ISA, and they have been working on this project. Dr. Holmes, thank you so much for making the time to be with us. I've been looking at your the report from ISA, and there appears to be quite a bit of data to help you reach your conclusions. But why don't you tell us, overall, paperless, has it made things better or worse?
It has made things better, in my own opinion, and what the research we've conducted so far suggests. And in fact, if you remember, the things you read out there suggest that we were looking out to cut costs, cut the time that people spend at the port, and ultimately make things much more easier for the importer and also for the tax collector, which is SEPS. And we've seen progress in these three areas, but there still remains some challenges which we've got to pay attention to.
Right. So first of all, let's explain the major difference in how things work now that we have the paperless system. So in the past, when you come along and you're bringing in goods at the ports, lots of documents need to be stamped and signed by lots of people, right? And at every point where a stamp or a signature or whatever is needed, it is a possible point for corruption. What changed with the paperless system? How does it work differently?
You seem to have explained it so well, and I suspect you might have imported something before.
No, never, but I watched the news, yeah.
Yeah, I get you. So basically what happens, or what happened in the past, in what we call the front-end system, was more or less you did all you had to do when your goods came into Ghana.
Right.
And there were a lot of physical contacts with government officials, or let's say tax collectors and inspectors. We also saw what we call clearance work being done physically. So there was one popular thing we call the long room.
Yes.
And the long room stood for several tables. So if I were important, then I'll carry my documents from table to table for it to be checked and certified that it's true, and it could go through. What we've seen coming along with the paperless system is to remove this physical long room and make it digital. So you can stay in your home and load or upload all your documents on this system. Someone sits in the head office of customs, looks at them, and then tells you that you've been cleared or otherwise. So these are the changes we've seen. Another change we've seen is the number of people who inspected your container when it came in. Of course, the objective was to reduce it from 16 to 3. So there were several units or agencies of government who would come and have a look at your container when it came in. What we've seen is to reduce this number to 3. FDA, Ghana Standards Authority, and Customs herself. So that is what we are looking at. But there seem to be some of the agencies which still hang around, and it's our hope that the 3 would be achieved ultimately. The point is, aside from the fact that we try to reduce it from 16 to 3, we also wanted all the inspectors to come in at once.
Right, so that it's done in one visit or one inspection.
Exactly.
Right, we'll talk a bit more about this in a moment. But first, let's take you back to what Doc was describing, you know, the days of what some described as anarchy at the ports. Now, it was based on this that investigative journalist Anasa Remiaw Anasa investigated the rot at the ports. Check this out.
Cooking oil, tires, fish, fridges or freezers were some of the products that importers have found dodgy ways of milking the state dry through tax evasion. For instance, Agro Delta brings in cooking oil. They claim they process that as soap. They pay less value for that under the disguise of processing. But when we hit the market, we realized that they were busily selling it as edible cooking oil instead of using it for soap. Who is investigating this company? All these evidence exist on the electronic system. When goods are cleared on permit, it is for special reasons, military, medical, or other emergencies. Goods cleared on permit are not properly valued and thus permit value applied is very low. We discovered that permits are frequently granted by relatively low-ranking custom officers without reference to their superior officers, and that such permits remain unperfected for a long time. We do not investigate each declaration. However, working on the assumption that, on the average, inspection reports would produce a 40% increase in value, we estimate that if customs had pursued unperfected declaration cleared on permit at the various ports, they could have easily recovered about 9,371,000 Ghana cedis. This works up to about 6,693,571 US dollars at the rate of $1 is to 1 cedi 40 pesos in 2009 from the FOB value of 312,421,000 Ghana cedis. The electronic system also pointed out dubious transactions by some officers who circumvent the rules to facilitate minimal or no duty payment when short collections are identified. Look at the following chart of erring staff. A supervisor asks examination officer to release goods against a check of 3,663.37 cedis. To date, there is no evidence in the system of the payment of the short collection of assets. A supervisor instructed examination officer to release the goods because he, the supervisor, has secured the short collection of 16,882.98 cedis. No evidence of short collection supposedly secured was paid. Many more examples of deliberate manipulation of the system to cheat the state by some companies and their SEPS officer cronies exist on the electronic system.
Yeah, I know, it's still shocking to see it. Now, following that, the late President John Evans Atta Mills visited the Tema port, and his speech summed up how Ghanaians feel about the corruption at the ports. Check this out.
Officers of customs, you are Ghanaian citizens. You have to help us to build a better Ghana. But if this is the kind of behavior, this is the kind of attitude that you have, you are not helping us in any way. We are not happy with the corruption. We are not happy with the revenue effort that they are making. And please, you look on, but I want to tell you, there are quite a number of you here who are also partners, who are also encouraging corruption. There are some of you here who are agents and who are helping with the corruption. My brothers and sisters, we need the money to develop the country. We need the money to build schools for those who are going to school under trees. We need the money to create jobs for you. We need the money to construct roads. We need the money to be able to give you scholarships to go to school.
Yeah, well, from that moment, we jump to this one, where we now hear the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, speaking about the solution. This was 2 years ago when the paperless system was introduced.
From government as the owner of the port to users of the port, shipping lines, exporters, importers, terminal operators, we are all dissatisfied because of the overall procedures, delays, lack of transparency in some cases, and the complexity in port operations. Part of the problem has been the inadequate oversight by the owner of the port, that is the government of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, this is going to change. Our consultations with stakeholders revealed that ultimately the only papers which should be allowed at the port are the waybill and the bill of lading. And so we have made an exception for these two. Our goal within the next 6 months is to have a robust risk engine which will grant customs clearance in a maximum of 4 hours. Dubai Customs, for example, is able to grant customs clearance in 1.5 seconds. And so Ghana can definitely aim for 4 hours, for within 4 hours. But I believe we can do much, much better. But we are giving ourselves some room. In the short term, we will begin the implementation of a risk clearance system at the pre-arrival stage. And this will make it possible for compliant importers to sit in their comfort of their homes or offices and get customs clearance. Every activity under this system will be fed into the risk engine to enable us keep records of importers. Furthermore, we would be introducing the first port rule in Ghana. This provides the avenue for duty of goods destined for countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, or Togo to be paid here in Ghana. So this should provide a check on dumping of goods destined for our neighboring countries in Ghana.
You can also feel free to join the conversation if you have faced challenges doing business at the ports. You can reach us through our other social media handles as well, Facebook and Twitter. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Dr. Andrew A.J. Holmes is a research fellow from ISA. Samson Awingobit is the executive secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association.
Asake is my name.
Asake is your last name.
Samson Awingobit are all my names.
But Asake is the last name.
Yeah.
You don't hide it from us. Okay,
exactly.
It's good to see you, and of course we've been talking with Doc already about this, and his interpretation, if you will, of the statistics. Actually, let's not call it his interpretation. That is what their research found. That it is now easier to do things at the ports. Now, of course, you are the one who has to live it on a daily basis. So tell me, how much easier is it now that the paperless system is in force?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say a very big good afternoon to your cherished viewers nationwide and beyond the source of this country, and to your good self and your production crew for making it a point to have us this afternoon. And I must say, I'm happy to meet my good friend once again, because since last week we were together at Joy FM. Today we are in JoyNews. So the multimedia group is interested. I think they are very much interested in the issues that we are having for us, and that's now conversation. I'm just coming from a meeting, I guess, paid a courtesy call to the Director General of Ghana Port and Harbour Authority, and these were some of the issues that we raised vis-a-vis the new port, the terminal tray, and then the issues that are surrounding it. So I must say, yes, from the decks that I sit, and then of course, when it comes to the port issues, I'm very interested and very keen to know what is happening, so that at least when people like your media houses reach out to me, I will be able to brief you or to actually feed you with the up-to-date information. Yes, it is true. If you listen to the Vice President statement, we are supposed to be on paperless. And indeed, that actually happened in 2017, back at 2017. And even though at some point, stakeholders like my good self and others also raised issues that yes, we were running paperless, but some agencies were still demanding paper. And so you remember 1 year down the lane after paperless, he did some revision and then to make sure that we actually go paperless. That is the conversation surrounding the whole issue about our port operations. It is important. I mean, we are not sitting in a different island. We are globalization, and we have port by port, Anta port, the US, the I mean, you know, most of the ports surround us, Dubai and others, Korea, where it's paperless. It is paperless. But you see, it's about human intervention. It's about the human Ghanaians or the black man is not comfortable in changing to when it comes to complete computerization.
So who is resisting the change? Is it the authorities? Is it the importers? Who is resisting the change?
Well, if you look at the background, the reasons behind the paperless was to actually reduce the time spending in queues, to do payment, to do paper transactions and other things.
And to remove corruption.
And to remove corruption. That's the paramount objective. And to the ease of doing business in our port. But the same people that they train, the same employees that they told, look, we want to move from paper to paperless. Are the people still trying to twist the whole thing to make sure they still see, they still interact? And
so the authorities
are
the ones resisting.
I do see people, when you go to embassies.
There's a reason why I'm asking that, because I want to clarify. Is it the authorities who are resisting the change?
When you go to the port, there are so many stakeholders. You have the custom officers, you have the other state institutions that, of course, even when the last time, you remember when the Vice President did the revision and asked that some institutions that do have direct inspection about goods at the port should stay back in the office. And if you have to issue paper like permit or certificate for clearance, why do you want to sit in the port? But as we speak, some institutions are still sitting in the port.
Which ones?
Oh, we have institutions like the Energy Commission and others are still at the port. When you ask them, the Standards Authority has given them a contract or a permit, and you ask them from the Vice President and the Standards Authority, who supersedes you? Then you see the Vice President's recent reduction of institutions to go back to their various offices, allowing the FDA, that's the Food and Drugs Authority, the Ghana Standards Authority, and the Custom to do their work. That are the mandatory institutions to be worked at the port currently as we speak now, plus Custom, and maybe at times if the security operative identifies something and they are trailing, they can come in. But yet, and at that very day, he also said that when we were establishing or when we were implementing the paperless, we collapsed long room at Temaport and we brought them to headquarters, a unit called compliance. You remember when he was doing this recent revision, he said there won't be there's no longer going to be compliance at the head office. And his reason was that he heard that before once documents goes through, you must transfer more money to someone at compliance before they work on you. You remember the Vice President said this in public domain. So, but as we speak, public compliance department is still running. Just about last 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had custom engagement, and I was asking the Tema Sector Command that when the Vice President were reviewing the paperless 1 year, he was very emphatic when he was reducing, asking other agencies that has nothing to do with the port clearance by virtue of inspecting a product before you can release the. He said he should go back to the various of it. He also made mention that compliance should be thing of the past. As we speak, compliance is still running. So
let's talk about that. So are your members still sending mobile money to people before their papers are moved along at this compliance division? Well,
the point is that, you know, when the Vice President did that, you remember he said that, okay, they will dispatch other team to monitor and report weekly to the presidency for them to know whether people compliant or not. I cannot sit here and tell you that people are no longer giving money to officers or compliance to get their document released. But that fear that the Vice President put to I can tell you, has reduced.
So it's still happening.
I think the Vice President will have to move more than that.
So what you're saying is still happening, but on a smaller scale than before.
Absolutely. Like those days that someone would go pay duty and send the signal back that I paid my duty that you calculate for me, I want to pay my bank, and I am waiting for compliance. What is compliance? It's just for them to cross-check. That the unit is to cross-check whether the quantities of goods that you said you brought on the paper, those people who assess you to pay the duty, did you actually pay the rightful duty? And if you have paid, then they will now assign an officer who is at the port, or for us, if you wanted to, for a better word, who is at the terminal yard, that if the container ought to go through green, that is, you go. If the container is yellow, then you go through scan. If the container is red, then they do physical examination. And that was where he reduced even a joint inspection, something, the gimmies.
Yes.
You understand? So these were some of the issues that we were trying to reduce at the port.
Mr. Asake, before we move on from this issue of compliance, the compliance which should not exist according to the Vice President, but is still existing and taking mumu.
Yes.
That's what I want to understand. This is corruption.
Of course, it's corruption.
Help us understand how it works. So you're bringing something in. I want you to give me a typical example of what an importer would go through, at what point the mobile money would be sent, so we understand how this is happening. Well, first of all, this compliance unit is being run by which?
It's customs.
Customs. Good. Please go ahead.
Yes. If if an importer brings his goods, we have certain documents required. If the Vice President even made mention of it, that you give to your forwarder, for example, your free forwarder, your agent, to process. So maybe packaging list is one, way bills is two, bit of lading, invoices, anything covered to make sure that this document is, this cargo is for you, and the quantities in it. Okay. So you declare and what type of product it is.
Okay.
Then the agent will then go to that West Blue platform, and that's the interest. And give description. If it's a mobile phone, I'm using Infinix, maybe Infinix Note what? Then you give all this, and then if there's how many quantities per box, how many boxes are in the container. Then we give all this description, then it goes to that custom technical bureau center at the head office. Then they will use their computer to do their calculation, everything. And when that is done, then they'll push it back to the GCNL platform to the agent. And the agent will print it, go and so by then you would have known how much is the duty. Then you go and pay the duty. Then you send it back to the West Blue platform. That is where it now goes to the compliance, and the compliance will now check whether the officers who assess you first, all right, and give you the duty to go and pay. Do they actually, maybe if it's Infinix, it might be Infinix but different note. Maybe it's note 3, maybe note, and they say that they mistakenly say note 4. Or it is note 2 and they mistakenly made it note 1. So that department would check all those things and see whether did I actually pay the rightful duty.
Yeah.
If yes, it shouldn't take the officer on that desk more than 30 minutes to cross check for a better way you can say even quality department. Then push it back by appointing an officer to handle your work for you, to go with you to the terminal.
You still haven't got us to the point where mobile money is being sent. But
that is what I said.
Yeah, let me just quickly acknowledge Patrick Frimpong Danso is on the phone with us. He's with the Office of the Commission of Domestic Tax Revenue at GRA. We'll be learning a bit more about the Integrated Tax Application Preparation System, ITAPS, in just a moment. Thank you for joining us, Patrick. Please stay with us.
So it is when
mobile money.
It is when you send it back for the compliant to now assign an officer to let the agent know, okay, the compliance has released it. They have assigned Mr. A. He's at, maybe the container is at Golden Jubilee or the container is at TCT. So when the compliance is delaying, sometimes at that time, it can delay more than 1 day or 2 days or even 4 hours or 5 hours. So, and you know, in the port industry, the few days or hours that you waste is money.
It costs money.
Because you are paying demurrage, you are paying rent. The container is sitting, goods is sitting in someone's container. Yeah. So that is, if you want it quickly, that's why the agent will have to find ways and means to send money. And that was what got to buy.
How do you know who to send money to? I want to understand that part of the process. How do you know? It's a team called compliance working at head office. So talk me through it. How do you know who to send money to in order to get your process moved along?
Absolutely, that is the challenge. And when the Vice President was announcing it, I wasn't there.
No.
When I'm saying it, I'm saying
this is a practice that goes on.
I'm giving you
this is a practice that goes on.
Absolutely.
So help us understand how it happens. A compliance team has been situated at the head office. The idea is you are centralizing it so you keep it away from those who might want to influence it with money.
That is the purpose.
All right. But somehow the connection has been recreated and mobile money is being sent. I want to know how.
Don't forget,
so tell me, how does it happen?
Don't forget that.
Who do you call when your thing is being delayed?
Don't forget that it is human beings who are there.
Good, we know
and
this.
And don't forget that they were working somewhere before they moved somewhere. And probably, maybe by virtue of conferences and other things, we can, oh, I'm at the conference, maybe now I'm at the compliance unit.
Okay.
So if once the agents, sometimes it is not happily, they don't enjoy doing that, but because they want to clear
on time for the importer, so that if the importer comes back next time, he doesn't feel like the last time I gave you my goods, you made me end up paying demurrage and rent. So they are finding ways and means to also do what? To entice the person so they can speed the work. But I think I don't subscribe to that. I myself, as a person, I have not transferred money to anybody before, but it happens.
Good.
It's a reality.
Now, this is why I need you to educate us so that we can identify the individuals who are doing this and get them jailed because it is corruption. Okay, that's why I'm asking you all these questions.
How did the vice president got to know this? It's because he has people on the ground that they picked intelligence.
And you are on the ground, which is why we're asking you to explain it to us.
I do, and that's why I said I was happy when the vice president says that he was going to scrap off the compliance department. And it still existed.
It's still running.
So the question now
people
is,
are still sending mobile money.
Vice president never came back to tell us why that department is still running at the customer office.
Very well. All right. Now, Doc, you know, this the human part of the system is what is always failing it.
Yeah.
Tell us, what did your study identify as the way around problems like this?
Obviously, we are speaking to issues which Ghana has attempted to address in the last month. And we are hoping that as time goes on, we would find a way forward. And to confirm the discussions my dear brother makes, we asked several respondents who were exiting from the ports whether they believe corruption has reduced since we began the paperless.
Yeah.
And so if it's reduced, then you are supposed to score 5.
Right.
And if you think it has not, then you score 1.
Okay.
So averagely, we had 2.9, between 2.9 and 3.
That was the average score.
Yeah.
How many people?
So these were 72 people.
Wow.
And in my mind, that score is not too bad.
Because it's close to the median point.
Yes. So it means that there are some people who are not being charged unapproved fees. And when I say unapproved fees,
yes,
I didn't know it's through Momo. But so those are unapproved fees. And mind you, the unapproved fees are not just for compliance. You know, customs has, let's say, 3 units. One for compliance, there's one for excise, and there's also
preventive.
A third one for preventive. So I could read a few statements that people made concerning corruption.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, so let me read this, and obviously for a good reason, I wouldn't
put their names.
And
yes,
then the particular port.
No problem.
So if we take corruption, there's one interesting statement here. They should also do something about the duty rates. It is getting out of hand. They should do something about it. If it is reasonable, most of the monies will go to the government and not to individual pockets. So there is a driver for the desire to pay unapproved fees.
Because if you do it up in the approved way, they consider it to be too expensive.
Exactly. So in the minds of importers, there is too much duty on the things they import. And if it's possible to have some illegal negotiation with someone so that that money or that tax would come down, then they share the what remains on top. So in their minds, if the duties were reasonable, then maybe this would reduce. So one of the things we intend doing is to go back and see what is happening after we cut
the announcement of the reduction by the economic management team.
Yeah, we have to pay higher duty and charges. I mean, we find ways of paying lesser. And this is an honest importer.
Yeah. So
it's one of the drivers. And then this issue about how long my container stays in the port. Demurrage charges, rental charges are so huge.
Yeah.
So if there is a way to get someone who can release it quicker for you, then that. So what we put in place in setting up the paperless was to give people information for every hour or every 2 hours, etc., as to where their processing is.
Right.
But that dashboard is not working. I can't tell what is happening to my application.
Right. Who manages it?
So it's supposed to be automated. So in this radio station, TV station, I don't know who the manager is. But the manager would have appointed several newscasters. And it's the responsibility of the manager to check whether the news you were supposed to present yesterday or today was done and you were able to do it on time. So somehow, our recommendation in this area is for the senior officers to regularly check on the junior ones to find out whether the assignments they were given in terms of applications made by importers are being attended to
At the right time.
At the right time and regularly information being given to them. You will move the compliance from the ports. It's in Accra. So if I'm in Takra, then I'm importing something and I've not heard anything for 3 days, it becomes, there's an uneasy, so then I find ways of getting around it. The second thing we recommend is that if it's possible, we should also automate the dashboard so that as soon as you put in your application or your documents, it will be able to check and tell you whether the things you've put in there are right or wrong. If it's wrong, then the system should be able to come back to you and say A or B or C of the things you've put on your paper are incorrect. So go back and check them. Rather than waiting for, let's say, 2 days before someone comes back and tell me, oh, the documents you submitted had A or B or C loophole, and you need to rectify it. 3 days of demurrage, if I explain it to you, it's like if you have 100 containers and each one you are paying demurrage of 450 cedis.
Wow.
You multiply it, and the demurrages are higher than the rent. But even if we move the goods to the grounds, and you have to do similar things, it becomes problematic. Then the other delays at the gate also creates opportunity for negotiations, which in colorful language we will say corruption. People would negotiate to leave the port faster, because if my goods have been cleared in an hour, supposing I was green, and in an hour I have my container, and I have to wait at the gate for, let's say, 6 hours, because preventive wants to look at it, national security wants to look at it, it's in our interest. But can there be a go or a wait system which makes things work better? It might be good. One of the reasons why I'm saying some of these discussions are belated is that the new port we have has 15 gates, which means that not everybody is going to crowd at one gate. It will make things faster. Number two, the gates would open automatically. It just reads your barcode on the container and makes things easier. So we went to speak to the sector commander, and I'm mentioning it because he was very open and allowed us to understand what is going on. I believe the silver bullet is with this new port. It will enhance the paperless more. And mind you, we're operating with between 5 or even 7 to 20 days. And now we've brought it to about 4 days or even less. For these people we spoke to, a lot of them are doing their clearing in 3 days, despite all the problems we've discussed here. Yes. So it means that improvements have come. And the MPS is going to augment the process and make things even much more better. So the question is, what do we do as people who are applying for clearance? Number one, go through your documents carefully and ensure that everything you put down is correct. Because if you have short sleeves and you say there are long sleeves, that is when things delay. But if you get it right, no problem. The next challenge will be with the people who are joint consignees. We cannot take them to the new port. They will still be operating at the Golden Jubilee, because in any case, the containers ought to be open. Supposing 3 of us have our things in one container, then it got to be opened and then divided. So some of the things we need to do, we have to do them right as people applying for clearance. And the agents who are checking our documents ought to be checked by a senior officer and we giving text messages or the dashboard on the internet website should work.
All right. Okay, well, the clear path forward there to jump over all of the obstacles being identified. Well, on the phone is Mr. Patrick Frimpong Danso. Now, he's with the Office of the Commissioner of Domestic Tax Revenue at GRA. Mr. Frimpong Danso, thank you for your time. Now, this integrated tax application preparation system, ITAPS, is supposed to be a digital tax filing platform. It should allow us to file our tax returns online with the Ghana Revenue Authority's new app. Help us get a bit of understanding of what has become of this initiative.
Okay, thank you, and then greetings to Doug and my friend, and then you as well. I think today is the first time I'm having a program with you.
Yes, indeed.
As you know about the ITAP one, the ITAP is to provide a convenient and simple means for taxpayers to be able to compute their tax return and tax liability. That is one. Two, it's also there to help taxpayers to reduce their cost and time of compliance. That's another thing. Right. Then we also want to improve upon the quality of return that taxpayers submit to us at the end of every month or year. Then the last thing that I'll mention is that with the ITAP, we are also giving taxpayers free application software to enable them to capture or record all their transactions for their filing of return. Meaning, for you to be able to file your tax return, you need to have a good record. And many a times, most of our the small and medium companies don't keep proper records, and therefore they don't have the basis for filing the record. So the ITAP, if I can say, is going to look at this. And the last thing I would say is that we also want to perform our ranking the ease of doing business report.
Okay, so I mean, let's talk about implementation here. We've got such a large informal sector. We've got lots of people who are not computer literate or don't even have access to the technology. How are you going to be effective with this completely automated system?
Yeah, if you look at the ITAPS itself, ITAPS is the front end that interacts with our taxpayers. You know, we have two softwares. We have the software that the staff of Domestic Tax Revenue Division, they use. And the ITAPS is the one that is going to interface with taxpayers, that's going to interact with our taxpayers. Now, it's a portal where you go in there and then you register, or you do a portal registration. It's a simple thing like you do, let's say you have an email address, go through some process. Once you are done, then there are other services that you can apply online. Now, with the ITAPS, it's going to give us opportunity for people to apply for tax plan certificate online and receive it online. So it means that we are going to do away with hard copy. Two, taxpayers can also apply for withholding tax exemption online and receive it online. Three, when it comes to withholding tax, it's a big issue for us where the agents that have been appointed by GRA have to take money from the withholding, then come and pay to GRA. The GRA will now issue a tax credit to the agent. The agent will take it back to the withholding, and the withholding will bring it back to GRA. You look at this kind of thing, it's too long. The ITAPS is going to make it simple where the agent, at the time of deducting the money for GRA, will issue the tax credit certificates on behalf of GRA. And that same tax credit will be credited to the withholding. So that one is going to happen on that. The next one is also going to be PAYE, where companies can upload all their PAYE. The system will make sure that all the calculations are correct and submit to GRA. Then we're also going to look at overtime and bonus. Taxpayers can also apply for their personal tax relief upfront for the employees. And those who are self-employed will take this when they are doing their final return. And then we are going to have what we call the business record manager, where it will keep electronic, what we call return bookkeeping for taxpayers for the purpose of filing their returns. So if you look at ITAPS, it's going to be the platform, a platform that enables the taxpayers to be able to access all these services. Apart from filing your return or applying for all these things, you can also make payments online. And it's a portal. And what the system is, you need an internet connectivity before you can also interact with that.
So again, I mean, I guess my question is still standing for an answer. I mean, how are we going to get, majority of Ghanaians who are supposed to be paying tax to use this system when it relies so heavily on technology and connectivity something which not all Ghanaians have access to.
Yes, I may say that sometimes when we come out with a system, if you look at some of the people go to Rwanda, they use mobile phones to do all these transactions. When it comes to technology, we always will say that people don't have access. But I can assure you that when people are buying for business to the UK and the US, they go through a portal. And they do it. Those who say they don't have access to internet will have access to internet, they do it. What we need to do right now is more of education. It's education, education, education. When it comes to the technology that we use, we have smartphones that people use a lot, and we all consume data. I always say that the future is not voice, the future is data. It will come to a time where we are going to make ring calls, voice calls, but when it comes to data, we pay for it. So we think that it's more of education. Two, because it's convenient for people to use the system, I think people will ordinarily use the system. Because if you take the advantage of you doing everything online, and you take the other side where you have to come in person. In person, when you come, you have limited number of working hours from 8 to 5. You have limited number of days. You are from Monday to Friday. But when you do things online, you have almost 24/7. So we think that it's more of education. Let people know that this platform is there for you to use, and also we do more education and also deploy more systems that will make it convenient for them.
All right.
So we are looking at where some people can even use the USSD technology to be able to record their transactions without using the live internet.
Wow. Well, let's talk about implementation. You've talked about education. So tell me what the timelines are. What's going to be the period of education, and then at what point will it become operational? At what point does it become compulsory? Walk us through the timelines.
Okay. Right now, what we've done is that we just finished doing some training for our staff. That means that the domestic tax revenue staff. We have trained a total number of 1,506 domestic tax revenue staff throughout the country. Apart from that, we have also trained the other staff that is coming from the custom division and also coming from the SS support service division about. These officers have been trained so that they will go and train their other colleagues in the office. When it comes to the taxpayers, we have done a training throughout the country, and we've done a training for a number of 1,785 people have been trained on ITAS throughout the whole country. Went on, and some of the people that we trained them were tax accountants, advisors, and then we have some identifier bodies like Association of Private Schools and others. We have trained all these people. These people are the first point that we have done the training for them. We hope to do more. And ITAS has been rolled out only for the personal income tax. That is annual filing of your personal income tax. And the law says that anybody who earns income, if you earn employment income like yourself at Joy FM, if you are a self-employed, you're supposed to file your annual return. If you have investment income, you're supposed to file your return. And this category of taxpayers are supposed to file their annual return. And it's by law. So what we are doing is that if you want to implement certain things that will have everybody on board, you need to come out with a system. And that's why the ITAS has been developed to make it easier for them to be able to file their return online. Now, if you look at the timeline, so right now, we have deployed the personal income tax plus the payments online. We are coming up in September. We're coming down with the tax land certificates, the withholding, the VAT withholding, and all the other modules that we are supposed to do. And that one, we have to go through and do a lot of education. I must say that we need to do more education. As I speak to you right now, on our ITAPs, we have 5,174 that have signed up to use ITAPs. Out of that, 4,102 have filed their annual return. And we are encouraging people to file their annual return using the ITAPs.
Very well. So tell us, I mean, at this point, since the system is pretty much up and running in some aspects, what are the targets? How is the GRA hoping that this will improve revenue collection? Do you have any targets for the coming years?
When you look at the ITAP, what we are looking at it is that we don't want to to dwell too much on revenue. We want to see how easier it is for the taxpayer to pay their taxes, how convenient it is for them to do that one. That's where we are looking at. And as I said, I always say that if you are designing a system for your customers, assuming taxpayers are customers, you have to make it easier so that people will always come to you. So we are looking at making it easier for people to comply. We want something like called the voluntary compliance. When people voluntarily comply with tax laws or to pay their taxes, we spend less collecting taxes. Cost of collection reduced, and it's a savings for GRA. So for now, we are looking more about making it more convenient and easy for taxpayers to pay their taxes. Because paying taxes, myself, you and you, we know that it's not easy. We want to make it so easy, so convenient, and simple for them to do. That's our task. We are not looking at revenue now. No, we are looking at making it easier and convenient for taxpayers. Now, that's our task.
Very well. All right. Well, listen, we certainly hope this works out for the better of all taxpayers. We wish you the very best with it. We hope that we can be partners in educating people on how to get this working. We appreciate your time, sir.
So maybe
Thank you.
Right. Actually, before you go, stay with us because I have a question here from a potential user of iTaps. Doc, what's your question?
Obviously, we've been working with them and also trying to understand the iTaps and the trips. And they've done very well in explaining certain things to us. I think one of the things which remains on the minds of users is the fact that when we were automating the tax collection system, you remember he mentioned two platforms. The other one is trips. Mm-hmm. It's been nearly 5 or 6 years, and we are still in the process. So the question is, how fast are we going to run with the iTaps? Because when it was within, it's taking us so long. Now that we are bringing it, like the ATMs, to the public, can we be assured that it's going to work very fast? Mm-hmm. And one good thing they've done, which I think we should also be happy about, is that they are encouraging all the 7,000 or so staff of the GRA to enroll on the iTaps, and that's a good move. Right. But we want to be sure how quickly everybody can get on.
Well, you have an answer for us?
Thank you. Yes. When it comes to the iTaps, we are looking at by the end of this year, we'll be able to deploy all the modules fast. When it comes to education, because iTaps have got a lot of modules, we need to take things slowly because when you come out with a lot of people might get confused. So we will do that one as and when we think that a lot of education has done, then we can do that one. Yes, as Doug, you said that it's by law that once you work, you are supposed to file your return. The Constitution did not instructed that every employee of GRA must file. And some of them going forward, when we deploy most of them going forward, even when you are applying for exemption, we will ask the company to make sure that all your employees have filed their annual return before we can grant you. These are ways and tools that we are going to use as we go forward. And we are going to link up with other agencies, government institutions and other agencies, to be able to enforce this because it's by law that once you earn income, you should file return. And this system that we have made it easier for you to do that. And even if you don't earn income, the law says file a nil return. And it's on iTaps, you can click a nil return and to generate a nil return and you submit to commissioner and like you have done. So we are trying to make sure that everybody, as I said, that we need to do more education before we start doing compliance issues. So for now, we are trying to do education. I can tell you that by the end of December, all the modules will be ready. But when it comes to education, we have to stagger it because we don't want to come out with a lot of products that people get confused.
Very well. Well, we thank you very much for that. And certainly, if this works out, it just makes life easier for everybody. And I do believe that it should also lead to an increase in revenue for government.
Hopefully. No, but that's the brain behind. So for now, it's the brain behind. Of course, yes.
Although
Mr. For now, they're encouraging
Mr. Frimpong down,
people should be able to go
doesn't want that to be the focus at the moment. But yes, I agree with you that we ought to be able to make more money from this. Now, let's go back to the ports, where we're trying to assess the impact of the paperless system. Now, you made an important point, Doc, that actually a lot of the information that we have from this report is a little bit belated because some of it came before we saw the reductions in the import duty, which makes me want to check very quickly with you, since you are on the ground, Mr. Asaki. The reductions, are they real? Are you really enjoying, in some cases, what, 30%?
You are trying to reactivate another conversation on the.
No, I just want you to tell me if it's real or not. We can't go into a long thing here.
Yes, it was a good thing, a good thought that the economic management team realized that Ghanaians were crying too much. In fact, it's the first in history that you even have a sitting president who has to meet his members of Council of State on national issues. And number one of the item, I'm sure your reporters were there in the presidency, on the list of the agenda, as part of the agenda that the Council of State went to meet the president, was about the cost of doing business in our port. That necessitated the conversation, and the vice president commissioned a committee or a team to do investigation to monitor what is happening in port, Ivory Coast Port and Lomé.
Mr. Asaki, we know
no,
this. Are you getting the reductions or not?
So on the 4th of, what was the month? Is it June?
Now you're asking me for
I've forgotten the date. The vice president announces the reduction. But I am getting another. It was good, yes. When the directive came, everybody felt it. And when I asked, they say, yes, truly, it's actually reflected. But within this week and last week, the intelligence, even today, after our meetings, some of our people reported to me that they are trying to reintroduce the benchmark values in some of the commodities again. And what they do is that they will up it, if you present it and say it is $5, they'll up it to like $6 before they will take the 60%, 50% out of it, before they then add freight and calculate your duty for you. So, and I've asked that I want to get evidence. So, but that is what is happening. That custom is trying to reintroduce it.
So customs are on their own increasing the benchmark values. That
As of today, that is the report
saying.
I am getting, that the benchmark values is making a U-turn back. But having said that, because I've asked for a CCVR to look at it, I'm saying since the introduction of the reduction of the benchmark value by the vice president, actually Ghanaians importers really benefited, especially commodities. When I talk commodities, I'm talking about the goods that were mentioned or that were itemized on the benchmark values.
Yeah.
But it was actually illegal. Benchmark value has no law backing it, not even our national laws, not even the tax laws that was backing benchmark values. It is an illegal animal. But however, hopefully, because of the untimely intervention by the Council of State and the President and the Vice President's team, they said, look, that was not bringing the needed traffic. When I talk about traffic, the needed cargo into the country. Because Ghana were now redirecting their cargo to Lomé and to Ivory Coast and finding ways and means into the country, denying the state the needed revenue. This was the excess of the reduction of the benchmark value. So I'll be surprised. And if the government, I'm sure by now, government officers are listening. If it's true that benchmark value is rejuvenated, then I'm afraid. I also listened to Doc on the port. Of course, we actually embrace the MPS operations because it is being automated. Even the driver that is going to pick a cargo, if you are not the driver, you can't even have access to it. And the directive by the GRA as well, saying that duties should be paid before the container leaves the port. So assuming if you are an importer and you want your container to go to, maybe you have a negotiation with TCT, which is outside terminal, or you have a negotiation with ACH, which is an outside terminal, or Golden Jubilee, which is a terminal to GPHA, and I want my container to go there. So far as your cargo arrive at MPS, pay your duty, and you can now move your container to that place. I think it's perfectly so that this accusation of Utimi Ukame, it will be taken off the past.
Right.
So yes, as we speak, just that there are teething problems. Okay. And I have realized that since the operations, they have been back and forth because as to GPHA, what containers are supposed to go to GPHA, as what containers are supposed to stay at MPS. I think at the end of the day, having met with the DG today,
I'm sure they're working to control that so that importer doesn't end up paying so much on demurrage and rent. I've even been told that because of the delays, even the MPS is waiving the rent, and then they're even asking the shipping company to also waiver the demurrage as well. You know, it's rent and demurrage.
Yes.
That is always chopping the importer's money.
All
so
right.
this is what we are looking forward to.
Okay, now I want to hear from you. So listen, give us a call, 0302-211-691 or 692. That's the number right there on your screen. Give us a call. Have you had to import anything recently? What has been your experience of the paperless system? What is the ease of doing business in Ghana since the paperless system was introduced? That's what we really want to assess. We want to hear from you. So call us 0302-211-691 or 692. If you have questions for our guest as well, you can call through with those and we will put them to our guests. Now, I think it was in May that the reductions were announced.
Yeah.
And yes, if you're saying that your members have actually, until these past couple of weeks where they are worried about some strange movement in the benchmark prices, until recently they've been enjoying these reductions. Why have the people of Ghana not been seeing reductions in prices on the market?
Well, it has, in trade, it has so many dynamics introduced into trade. As at the time the person was procuring the goods, what was our rate? As at the time the person procured the goods and was bringing to the country, how much freight has he or she paid? And so until I told the government, hold on, I told the government
on your duty.
Yes, I told the government that so we are from May to July, and we are getting the report that they are making a U-turn. I said it because I knew some of you will definitely ask these intelligent questions. I said that the tax reduction that the vice president gave or the economic management team gave was good, but it will take us 3 months or 2 to 3 months when their previous, those who had already brought in goods, because mind you, some people have goods in stock running for like 3 to 4 months. When those goods are being exhausted, and the goods that came and met the reduction period that they reduced at the port that is being cleared, that is where we can start to feel. This is the correct period that Ghanaian can now ask them, Mr. Asake, when you said 2 to 3 months, now we are in the May, June, July, if not even up to 2 months. And there's a U-turn. Guess I'm telling you because...
Well, we are yet to verify this, but that's what you are here.
Well, custom, you can call custom. I mean, that's why I'm here. You can. This is a public...
What I'm saying is...
a bigger platform in the country.
What I'm saying is you are reporting to us what you are hearing.
Exactly.
Yes.
You
yourself haven't even seen a CC...
oh, but I don't doubt my source.
Yes, but that's the point. You are still reporting what you have been told.
No, Kojo, you have been in Joy FM with me. You know, I will not come to this national television and sit here
I'm not saying this,
throw garbage in.
Mr. Asake, I'm not saying this to cast doubt over what you are saying. I'm saying this to clarify that we have a process of verifying information.
Which I said.
You are telling us what you have been told.
Which I admitted that.
We will verify the information and inform the public.
Kojo, which I admitted that when I got that complaint,
yes.
I said I want to see data.
Indeed.
I want to see paper. But I can tell you.
So let's not argue. Let's just move on.
That I cannot guess it here and throw garbage in. It's happening. If it's not happening, they cannot tell me.
All right. Well, we will verify what we have been told.
You can put it online too.
We'll bring that to you. But let's take some calls. Blaze calling us from Tamale. Blaze, good morning. Good. What's on your mind?
We here do it all day.
Hello, Blaze. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. Evening. Go ahead.
Yeah. The problem is that I think the agents. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Blaze. Go ahead.
Yeah. The agents have to be educated. Because if I give my goods to an agent, the explanation that he's going to give to me, you will not understand. You get me right? Hello?
Yes, Blaze, please say that again.
Yeah,
we didn't hear you.
Whether the GRA or whoever have to get the agents, educate them. So if you don't educate the agent, so at the end of the day, the importer or the exporter always have problem with the agent.
Okay, all right, Blake. Thank you very much for that very important point.
Thank you.
So yes, some investment into education of the agents so that everybody's on the same page.
Engaging agents. From where I sit as the executive secretary, what I can only say is that if you are an importer and you bring in your goods into the country and you are going to give to an agent, look for a professional freight forwarder. Don't just go and meet anybody by the street and hand over your document to. That could cost you to pay huge demurrage and rent. Now, also make sure that the information that you are giving to your agent is up to date. Then also be honest to tell the agent the actual quantities in your container and tell the specific products that are in your container. So that in description, because the agent is just working with document. He hasn't seen the what do you call it? The cargos. Even that is why sometimes when I see the security operative arresting an agent that maybe there's something foreign material in the container, agent didn't travel anywhere. It is the importer who brings the goods. So what the importer tells the agent that it is in is what he's working on. He's working based on paper and not on content, not on physical goods.
Okay, let's take another call.
All of us need education.
Isa Alasan is calling us from Tamale. Isa, good afternoon. What's your contribution?
Good afternoon, Kojo. Please, I just want to make a little correction. When you introduced the topic, you said it was introduced, the paperless port was introduced in 2017. But as far back I can remember, I started hearing about paperless port since 2015. It was a program on GTV hosted by this man. One guy used to work at Metro TV. So it wasn't introduced in 2017. It was introduced as far back I can remember around 2015. Thank you.
Right. Is that the case?
Well, my brother is the point is that I think in Joy FM, the very day that we had this conversation, I give antecedent historical background. We tried to go paperless during the time President Mahama government take the job from DIC to custom, bring it in West Blue.
Yeah.
In fact, even before West Blue came to do single window, that all the state agencies, they are hooking them to one platform, one-stop shopping. GCNet were also discussing with us about single window. Then President Mahama government brought in the West Blue. So the West Blue took the job from DIC. Of course, the reason was that those days, if an agent does the application to Destination Inspection Company to come out with the values, they come out with huge values. And if the agent and the importer move to the DICs and there's conflict, the final arbiter used to be the custom.
So did the paperless system start in 2015?
So it was from President Mahama time, we moved from the DIC to custom using West Blue software to do the calculation of these and other things. It's called single window.
Was it
then
paperless?
In 2017, May, when the Vice President also assembled us all to have a discussion and introduce the paperless. So in every regime, they've been trying to work to perfect the system in our operations in the port for faster clearance. So yes, he may be right, but there were different names. This is single window and this is paperless.
So the single window,
they're all IT investments.
So the single window was also to remove the paper.
It was also
from the process.
To reduce the human interaction.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay then. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Alasan. Then we can take perhaps one or two more calls. 0302-211-691. Gideon Ba is in Akimoda. Gideon, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, Gideon, go ahead.
All right, my name, I just want to find out. I want to export some things to Germany, and I want to know if I can get any of the reliable agent contacts.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I'll tell you what you should do. Is there a website that he can go to where he can find out the agents who are in this business?
Yes, why not? If he comes to Tema, he will definitely get, he should go to Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. That is the Agents Association, or he should go to Custom Union.
He's in Akimoda.
Yeah.
A phone call would be useful, or a website.
Yeah, well, perhaps if you can leave the number with the this, when I'm done, I'll definitely call.
Very well. All right, so stay on the line. The producer will take your contacts, and somebody will call you. Thank you for calling us, Gideon. Yeah, well, we put people together, right? So look, let's start looking to the future. I don't know if we'll get the chance to take another call, but let's start looking to the future. This is something that we know if it works well, everybody will benefit. We're already hearing about little hiccups here and there. We want to overcome them. Now, the new port seems to be a giant leap forward. And in fact, Mr. Asaki himself confirms that if that works well, it would be a big part of the solution.
Yeah.
So, if we think about how human beings always try to put themselves in an automated system to make some money from it, even these new ports with their 15 gates or whatever, what are the risks? What are the dangers? Where could we possibly see corruption and time wasting still coming in?
So I would say that, and I've said it here before, that the objective is not to get to a corruption-free society. That's
utopia.
Yes, and when you say so, people don't want to listen. But the objective is to minimize it. And in my mind, one of the areas we definitely have to look at is our source of internet. Is very critical. When things break down and people cannot access their documents, etc., then it makes them
try to
begin to make phone calls.
Yeah. We'll continue that thought in a moment, but we have a call from Cape Coast. Enoch Aqua is on the line. Enoch, good afternoon. Hello, Enoch. Are you there? We may have lost Enoch there. But yes, this is an important point you're making.
Obviously, the previous port, what we had, there were frequent problems with the internet. And this is where I say one thing is linked to the other. And you know, the internet service providers are not GPHA. So we put to the sector commander what arrangements have been made. And he more or less assured that this new platform has prepared for such things. So given some time, we'll go there and check again. So that's number one. And then number two, you see, when there are, we don't all have a clear understanding of what ought to be done, it also creates problems. Because people in Takoradi wait 2-3 days without knowing what is going to happen to their application. But if they have been told, or we've all agreed, that after every hour, we will give you an idea of where your goods are, it will make people relax and not be forced to pay, how do you call it, to pay money to get their
things moving.
So let's get the standards right. The importer knows what he or she gets, and the person also processing the documents knows what he or she ought to give to the importer. I think it can help.
Thank you so much for that. Nuru is on the line. Nuru Hussein from Bolga. Nuru, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, please go ahead, Nuru.
Good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Please, I am in Port Card, but can I clear my goods without this agent?
Yes.
Because good question.
Agents are not charging us too much. You call and then they will charge you, and making the clearance to be higher. So can we clear our goods ourselves?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it's always assumed that you need an agent, but is that the case?
They can clear the goods themselves. So if you import regularly, you can have an in-house clearing system, but you definitely need to get the same, more or less, certification they've given to these agents. So if I am, let's say, Aluwex, and I'm always bringing metals to Ghana, which I do maybe daily, then in-house, I can have my own agency. But sometimes it makes very little economic sense if it's just one container I'm bringing my entire life to go through the processes, get trained to be able to fill all those forms just to import one container. But there are clear ways as an individual to be able to clear your own goods. Yeah.
Well, he imports cars, so he's running a business that will require constant use of the ports. So I guess for him, it is a possibility, is it not?
Well, let me come into here. Well, it depends the volumes too. It's important. And then compliance as well. Because custom has to look at all these things before they can set you up. Other than that, I think if he's having challenges, he just have to call the Import and Export Association, or you just have to call the Association of Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, or Custom Logistics Association, or ACHAC, which is their national association for the agents, and they will recommend a professional and then, of course, a good one, credible person to you so that you can clear your
well, I mean, for him, the problem is the cost, not even the credibility. But thank you very much for that. And thank you both for making the time to discuss this all-important issue on our Beep series.